In the final 5 of the Hitch20, we explore various ways secrets can heighten suspense.
And Hitchcock is just smarter than us, let's face it.
One of the most experimental directors ever.
Today, Hitchcock's only color television episode, Incident at a Corner.
Don't get excited. Why not? I am excited.
Much has been said about the 52 feature films that Hitchcock directed, but nobody talks about the 20 television episodes he also directed. The Hitch20.
Hitch20 is made possible by GlideCam, world-class camera stabilizers, and by Suspense with a Camera, a filmmaker's guide to Hitchcock's techniques. We also enjoy the inspiration of subscribers like you. Thank you.
Film director Alfred Hitchcock was at the top of his game. Some would argue that he was at his peak creatively. It was only a few weeks after he'd filmed his iconic Psycho that he turned back to television to direct an episode that is hardly mentioned in his filmography.
If you were watching television on April 5th, 1960, that's a Tuesday night, and you happen to turn on NBC, you would have caught Alfred Hitchcock's first foray into color television production, Incident at a Corner.
Almost none of the US population had color televisions, so when the episode aired in April 1960, it would have been seen like this.
I did think he was officious, but believe me, please.
What did you say?
What?
That last word, did you say officious?
Why, yes.
Incident at a Corner is an unusual choice for Hitchcock, lacking a dead body, lacking that macabre subject matter that he was known for. You won't see close-ups of feet, subjective point-of-view sequences, no experiments with montage. In fact, there's a lot in this episode that won't be recognizable at all as Hitchcock.
It didn't have that pure Hitchcock feel to it, to me, like an Alfred Hitchcock Presents would have.
I don't think the suspense is terribly strong in this, and certainly visually, there's not many like Hitchcock, cues, in it.
People today might look at a Hitchcock television show and think, well, it wasn't Hitchcock firing on all his cylinders, that he was just being lazy, or that he was just kind of, just writing it off.
It's a lot of dialogue. He's not being overly fancy with his camera work.
What we don't realize is television back in those days is treated very much differently than film. The mentality of television was that it is instant, it is here, it is now, and it's gone.
It was episode 27 of a series on NBC called Star Time. Hitchcock's agent, Lew Wasserman, who had originally convinced him to go into television 5 years earlier, suggested this episode. Perhaps because it was written by Charlotte Armstrong, the queen of suspense.
And Wasserman convinced Hitchcock to shoot this show for the series just a week after Hitchcock had finished the production on Psycho. So he brought most of the crew and Vera Miles from Psycho to shoot basically what is a drama about misdirection.
Because it wasn't Alfred Hitchcock Presents, he was not able to do an on-camera introduction as audiences would expect. Instead, he found other clever ways to call attention to his presence, to provoke that sense of a storyteller. What he did was something he had never done before. He manipulated the editing to show the same incident 3 times from 3 different angles, putting us into the editing room.
You never think of Hitchcock as being an experimental director, but he is really one of the most experimental directors ever.
Hitchcock is telling us, the viewer, hey, this is a really important incident. I named this show after it, right? And then we see it a 3rd time.
It was kind of a shock to see that car pull in, because when we see all the different angles, you're like, there's no way I would have missed that car.
Because when you're watching a Hitchcock film, you automatically go into like detective mode or sleuth mode. So when you see the fact that we're going to show you the scene from 3 different angles, you immediately start to look for all the clues.
Then I went back and watched it. I'm like, sure enough, he's got the camera just cutting them off. You don't see it. So you didn't get that piece of information.
But what this really is this is misdirection.
Mrs. Tolley calls Gramps an officious old man, but the couple that lives across the street hears it as vicious old man.
A vicious old man.
This is all a way of getting the audience involved by revealing a secret that only the antagonist knows. This couple across the street wants to get rid of the old man. The antagonist knows about the secret. We know about that secret, but the protagonists do not know about the secret. So our anticipation builds as they begin to catch on. But there's a second part of the secret that we don't know about. The mysterious note.
What was in the note? Madam, Medwick is a vicious old man. Better get him away from the kids, especially the little girls. Signed, Interested.
We hear about the note, but we don't see the note.
That note sparked phone calls, and those phone calls turned into information that eventually fired Mr. Medwick.
I think Hitchcock didn't show close-ups of the note. We only see it in one wide shot, and I think the note becomes part of the mystery, but by not seeing it, it leaves a lot of doubt as to who wrote it.
Was it Mrs. Tolley? Mr. Beatty? The couple across the street? The story dances around this question. Nobody knows where the note came from. This is the second secret, and that's something that only the antagonist knows. The audience doesn't know, and the protagonist doesn't know.
Hitchcock makes us believe that it is Mrs. Tolley, so I guess I felt Mr. Medwick didn't do it because, well, you like the guy. And you don't like Mrs. Tolley. And as a viewer, I'm like, she's obviously guilty. What else could it be? So there's Hitchcock tricking us again. And I found it incredible that when she was denying that she did it, you're like, the nerve of this woman to do this and then to deny it. And then in the end, she's innocent.
Did you know that the word vicious was applied to Mr. Medwick in that note?
Was it?
As an audience, as a viewer, we tend to believe that we're smart. and Hitchcock is just smarter than us, let's face it.
But he heard you wrong. He thought you said vicious.
V-I-C-I-O-U-S.
Could Beatty have written that note?
Who is he? Where is he?
We'll go see him.
Let's go.
Actually, it's withheld, but if you go back to the beginning of the movie, we forget that Jack Albertson's character actually says,
What if I get rid of the old guy?
and then we never suspect him again. I mean, it's right there handed to us on a plate. But I forgot he said that. You know, it's got to be Mrs. Tolley. It's almost like what a magician does. You know, they're like, look over here to the right, and then in their left, they're doing something else. That's what Hitchcock did to us. It was a magic trick. It was a simple magic trick.
Make you look at this hand, while this hand, he's tossing it over his shoulder, and then, wow.
And 50 minutes later, we're back in the apartment with the couple, and we're like, ah, yes. He did say he was going to do something to the old man.
Hi guys, I'm the writer, producer, and narrator of Hitch20. If you'd like to dive in deeper to Hitchcock's techniques, check out my new book, Suspense with a Camera. We go through the process of writing a visual sentence, the 3 steps for setting up a suspense scenario, so much more. Check it out, Suspense with a Camera, in bookstores everywhere.
Those Hitchcockian long takes just got easier with the versatile, lightweight GlideCam stabilizer. A GlideCam on your production means smooth, flowing video. GlideCam, the name and future of camera stabilizers.
This episode includes Hitchcock favorite Vera Miles from Revenge, The Wrong Man, and the second half of Psycho. You may also notice Lester Townsend of North by Northwest Philip Ober. Incident at a Corner is not only an experiment in Rashomon editing, but you can see some subtle experimentation with the camera in other ways. There are smaller, less obvious camera techniques like characters standing up within a camera frame at a dramatic moment, showing the back of heads when someone is thinking, a wide shot emphasizing the villain's large mansion before she actually appears, and Hitchcock uses a lot of high and low angle shots, playing with the space above and around the characters in much the same way that he will later do in The Birds.
After going so far in the episode that's all about angles, with this angle, that angle, this character's point of view, that character's point of view, we end up with a high overhead, a God's eye point of view, a God's eye angle. And that's when George Peppard is making a speech, and as the camera clicks, clicks, clicks down, like in Jaws, we finally get to a cooperation amongst all the characters.
I don't know. It still baffles me, that scene. And maybe other people would watch it and go, wow, yeah, that scene totally belongs there. But I watched it and it was almost discerting to me. Like, why is this here? Because it was a dialogue-driven story. And then all of a sudden we get into this high shot of a camera. I just felt it was unnecessary. But I did feel that was Hitchcock. That made it feel like an Alfred Hitchcock story for sure.
Happy birthday to you.
The way the shot looks is very Hitchcock, because we're juxtaposing this terrible news that he's just received against the happy, jovial celebration that's before him. And so his life is dramatically altered in that very moment.
Now, I did find the endings of all these things a little bit hokey because, of course, back in those days, you had to end everything with a positive note. You had to come to the conclusion, oh, it was just, everything has to be tied up in a nice little bow.
But to take taboo subjects and present them in a way where, without saying the words, pedophilia or rape, he brought things into movies and films that other people just would never bring in at that time, like on primetime television. Like, that had to be shocking for people. Like, whoa,
Of course, we don't know if he gets his job back. We don't know any of that stuff. Maybe he never did get his job back.
This is the corner where the incident took place. That is the school. It's still here, but it's been remodeled. And that is where the crossing guards sat. The motif of angles extends to our leading lady, Vera Miles, who is a school teacher who is tutoring a pupil on geometry, the study of angles.